I bought this Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Classic Duoface in medium size back in 2023. And after more than 2 years of real ownership, would I still buy this watch again today? In this video, I want to talk about what it's actually like to own the Reverso long term. I'll briefly touch upon the specs for anyone who's new to the watch, but this is not a launch review. This is about real world wear, durability, travel, comfort, and whether this watch still makes sense years later. And one really important detail up front, this medium-sized Reverso Duoface is currently discontinued from primary retail, which makes this long-term perspective even more relevant if you're considering hunting one today. Let's first talk about why I bought this watch. So in 2023, this YouTube channel, Minutemon, was about to hit 100,000 subscribers. It was a huge milestone for me, and I wanted to commemorate it by picking up a new watch. I basically narrowed it down to two options. First was a Cartier Tank Louis in yellow gold, which was quartz, and this Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Classic Duoface. As you can see, I knew I wanted something dressy, and I was drawn to the rectangular case shape. Around that time, I had recently sold my Grand Seiko Kiku GMT, or the reference SBGM 235, after about 3 years of owning that watch. I love that watch and all the memories that I had with it, especially when I got to bring it with me to Japan, but ultimately the case was thicker than what I wanted in a dressy piece. At that time, I also had owned the Cartier Santos Medium since 2021, so about 2 years, and I was wearing that constantly. But honestly, the Cartier Santos started to become really popular and I started to see it everywhere. And when you talk about watches like I do, or even sell watches like I do, I kind of wanted something different. And since I knew I liked the square case of the Cartier Santos, a rectangular case felt like a natural next step. So both the Tank and the Reverso were watches that I always said I'd love to own one day, and this felt like the right moment. So at the time, 2 years ago, both of these watches were priced very similarly, around the $12,000 to $13,000 brand new. But for me, the Reverso offered more. Even though it's in stainless steel compared to gold from the Tank, you get a beautifully finished manual wind JLC movement, 2 different dials, a real travel time function, a compact case, and thoughtful design details. The silver dial has classic Arabic numerals with guilloche, while the other side, the black dial, has a clou de Paris texture and lume. And I was happy that the 19mm lug width meant that I could reuse straps from the Grand Seiko that I had owned before. And so all of those reasons spoke to me more than the quartz gold Tank Louis. Now, historically, the Reverso was designed as a sports watch for polo players, but I think you would agree with me that most people see this today as a dressy watch. For me, this was going to be my dressy travel watch. Elegant, practical, and versatile. Let's talk quickly about the real-world specs. This is the Reverso Classic Duoface in medium size. What that means is lug to lug, or the length, is 42.9 millimeters. Width across is 25.5 millimeters, and the thickness is just over 10 millimeters. For context, the Grand Seiko GMT I had before was over 3 millimeters thicker, and on the wrist, that difference is very noticeable. Now, there is still a large Reverso that's still made today, but from what I wanted from a dress watch, the medium size felt perfect. It was compact, elegant, and very thin. Now, inside this watch is the JLC Caliber 854. It's manual winding, it beats at 21,600 VPH, and has a 42-hour power reserve. I wind it every day that I wear it, and because there's no date, setup is really easy. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that power reserve is never a big deal to me, because if I'm wearing the watch, then I'm winding it, and I never really exceed or get close to the limit of the power reserve. To me, power reserve only matters when you're rotating watches and you want to switch to another watch and then switch back, and you hope that your first watch is still running. Now, the water resistance on this watch is 3 bar. It's pretty standard. I mean, mine has seen rain, splashes, and hand washing, and I've had no issues so far. So when I first got the watch, it came on a brown leather strap, but I hate this strap so much. I already knew I was gonna switch it to a gray Deluxe nubuck strap to dress it down. And during the honeymoon phase, which was like winter of 2023, I wore this watch almost every day. At first, I missed having a date window, but that feeling passed quickly because winter made this watch really easy to wear. Like, as you can see today, I'm wearing like this chambray shirt with a blue sweater, and this Reverso just kind of matches so easily with this whole look. Layers, jackets, sweaters, the Reverso always feels like the final detail, like a cherry cherry on top. But after winter, when the warmer weather came around, I started to reach for my Reverso a little bit less. When it's warmer out, I tend to wear more bracelet watches, and I want watches with more water resistance. Now, fast forward a year of owning the Reverso, and it sits in a healthy, normal rotation. I wear it every few days, and it's always comfortable because of how light it is. Over time, I experiment and add more straps like the deluxe green strap, a beige strap, and eventually my first John Rousseau custom gray alligator strap. Honestly, there isn't a strap combination that doesn't work, except the stock brown strap that I hate. But this is what my watch looks like today. Yeah, there's scratches. That's normal. That's how it should be. The Reverso has plenty of polished surfaces and it will definitely scratch. But honestly, I can't remember where most of them came from, and I'm totally fine with that because I wore this watch to so many important moments. The case held up really well. The only thing I was actually worried about was the flipping mechanism wearing out, especially because I like to fidget with this a lot, but it still snaps in place with no issues. Sometimes inside the track, you'll see a little bit of a dark streak, and that just reminds me I should probably wipe down my watch and clean it a little bit. But overall, I would say 2 years of wearing this watch, the watch has aged gracefully. It doesn't feel beat up, it just feels lived with, if that makes sense. How about the accuracy? So when I first got the watch, I tested it in a few positions, like on a time grapher. What's interesting is normally when you time a watch on a time grapher, you do 6 positions like dial up, dial down, crown up, crown down, crown right, crown left. Because this watch can flip over and provide a different dial, technically I've been wearing this watch dial down a lot more often than my other watches. To make it a little simple, in real world use, accuracy has been somewhere within 10 seconds. This watch doesn't have hacking seconds, meaning if I pull the crown, the small seconds on the silver dial side will continue to run, but honestly, I've never set it to the exact second anyways. I've always just set the hours and minutes and then just continued my day. Again, no issues with the power reserve, and so far no issue to send it in for service or regulation. So I would say real world use with the JLC movement, I've been really satisfied. So let's talk about the dual time function on this watch, because the first time I was using this, I kind of did it wrong. And if this part feels a little confusing, then it's normal, but just kind of listen carefully. So I was setting this watch incorrectly at first because I was treating this watch like a traditional traveler GMT watch. So for example, I live in New York, and let's say I'm flying to San Diego in California. That's 3 hours behind. On a traditional traveler GMT watch, I pull the crown and jump the local hour hand back 3 hours. On a traditional traveler GMT watch, you would have a 24-hour hand that would keep my New York time, and then I would have New York time and San Diego time displayed on the dial. So with that logic, what I would do is I would keep the silver dial side on New York, and then I would flip it over and use this lever here to adjust the black dial side, which has the jumping hour, 3 hours behind to show San Diego time. So on paper, that does work, and both dials show the correct time, but here's a little quirky part. On the black dial side, down at 6 o'clock, there's a 24-hour indicator. So if I'm physically in San Diego, I don't need the black dial side to tell me whether it's day or night here. I can just look outside and know. And then that's where it clicked in my mind that this watch works better if you set it this way. Using the same example, New York to San Diego, 3-hour time difference. On the silver dial side, I set this to San Diego time up front. So I'm gonna make that 3 hours behind. Then I flip the watch over to the black dial side and I jump the hour 3 hours forward. So now that matches New York time. So again, both dials are still correct. They show the correct time, but the difference is that the 24-hour indicator now tells me whether it's daytime or nighttime back home. And that matters a lot more when you travel even further. For example, when I went to Geneva for Watches and Wonders or Dubai for Dubai Watch Week, that 24-hour scale instantly tells me whether my family in New York is awake or if it's 3 in the morning and I should not bother trying to call them. It took me a while to understand that process, but once it made sense, then the dual time function became genuinely useful. Now, I would say this past year, 2025, is when this watch went to a whole nother level in my collection because I put this watch on a Milanese mesh bracelet, and then everything changed. It suddenly worked for every situation, casual, formal, travel. And at one point, it just pushed my other watches back into the watch box. I actually had that mesh bracelet from Strapcode. It's like the Milanese tapered brush bracelet with easy spring bars for a few years, but I never thought to use it that much until I saw JLC come out with their Reverso Tribute in all gold with the Milanese mesh bracelet in 2025. And then I was like, hey, I should try putting that back on my watch again. And once I did, I was like, wow, this is like a easy, no no-brainer combination. Now, while I love this watch and I've been talking very positively, here are a few things that still bother me about the watch, and I don't think you would notice them unless you owned it. One, the printed Jaeger-LeCoultre logo on the silver dial side is so hard for my eyes to focus on. It is illegible. I cannot read it at all because it's printed right on the guilloche, and there's too many things going on that it becomes really distracting. The way I would fix it is to put the Jaeger-LeCoultre name on like a plaque that stands separate from the pattern, or to make it applied so it has a little bit of depth. But because of how iconic and recognizable the Reverso case and design is, you don't really actually need the JLC logo visible. Secondly, I definitely talked about this before, but on the black dial side there is lume, but to me it's basically unusable. It's very dim, at least in the medium size, and if I need to actually use it, I'll use my phone's flashlight to charge the lume, but at that point I'm already holding my phone, I can just check the time like that. And number three, this isn't a big deal, but I do wish that the jumping hour could move backwards as well as forward. This will matter more when I'm traveling further and I need to adjust the black dial side back to New York. It would just save me a little time. Now, none of these things I mentioned are real big deal breakers, but they're only things that I thought about after owning this watch for 2 years. So, is this watch still worth it to me today? And the answer is yes, absolutely 100% yes. I wear it so often still, and I love that people associate this watch with me now. Despite how many people actually know about JLC and the Reverso, I actually don't see that many in the wild, especially when I go to a bunch of watch meetups in New York. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, this medium-sized Duoface is discontinued, which is unfortunate because in my opinion, it's one of the best sizes. I would recommend this watch to anyone who wants like a dressy, complicated watch. Like I've worn this to weddings, to business meetings, and any special occasions, and this is one of the most underrated ways to do it. So yes, this watch is absolutely staying in my collection. I'm even considering engraving it, but that means I would have to send my watch and I wouldn't be able to wear it, so that's why I haven't done it yet. Also, my store Karen & Co is an authorized retailer for Jaeger-LeCoultre. If you ever want to check a Reverso in person or any of their other collections, you can reach out to my store. If you want to see my first impressions when I originally bought this watch back in 2023, I made a video on that right here. Now that you've seen this video, are you considering a JLC Reverso? Let me know in the comments below. It's been a minute. Thanks for watching. Bye.